Yes, no, I was thinking earlier. It didn't go the way I wanted, and I was getting mad, so it was just bad luck. I was like, I didn't get the perk I wanted, and then I got the gun I wanted, and I couldn't pick it up. So, so because of that, I had to go for 10 rounds.
Auxiliary power activated.
If given enough time, I could create a generator from spare parts. Why is it black and white now?
Please.
Gets me every time.
The mechanism must be repaired.
Usually the voices sound so angry. These kneel before the not dead. Forget. Gets me every time. Oh, death will be quick. My turn! Oh no! I need assistance! That nasty thing touched me! Hey! It bounces off me and sticks on you! Again, the doctor is victorious! Without proper ammo, I cannot give them proper death. Gets me every time. Oh, it is so big and long. The explosion is intense. I cannot contain myself.
Main power offline. Auxiliary power activated.
Yeah, I'm almost out of vodka. I mean, no power! I do not like this drink. It ruins my buzz.
Help me. She's coming. The mechanism must be repaired.
I will help you, but only if you get me some vodka. I merely slipped on all the blood I spilled. I do not like this drink. It ruins my buzz. My ex-wife hits harder than you. Can anyone spare some ammo? Fuck! Out of ammo!
Death machine!
I've fallen and I can't get up! It took thousands of them to finally get me. My weapon is hungry for ammo! I do not like this drink. It ruins my buzz. I warned you, Hellspawn! I kill you! Sounds like fair play. The hoarding of wealth is job for dirty capitalists. I warned you, Hellspawn!
Main power online. Auxiliary power deactivated. Rocket approaching test position. Main power offline. Auxiliary power activated.
Where did all the color go? Why is there no power? Who am I talking to?
Please.
Gets me every time.
The mechanism must be repaired.
Usually the voices sound so angry.
Me? Me earlier? What you said? You ever get so sleepy you sleep sitting up?
Oh, that's very kind of you. Gets me every time. We commence with the killing.
The browser extension that finds your coupons. People being
Gets me every time.
I will say I'm glad your mom found her, that her purse was here. That could have been bad.
Find ammo. Just what I needed for the sniper level.
And then from out of nowhere, a mega lag investigation on Honey, revealing extremely shady, potentially illegal things going on. It's a story and case that I've been glued to because shit's hairier than my ass. Money at stake here, potentially. And Megalag has been in the crosshairs of some very powerful figures here seeking to, discredit him in his investigation. It's been like a wild series of events. And now he's just posted a new video updating everyone on where everything is in this case investigation against PayPal Money. I highly recommend you check out the full video.
I know that there's sections around here.
Go over it.
Oh, I fucked that.
Myself, go over some of the parts about it.
So is at the center of Oxford. And then Hegel warned that my investigation was, quote,
No color. No honor.
his business is being, quote, responsible. Well, just 3
reminds
after
me of
publishing
home.
that investigation,
must be repaired.
largest
Who are you?
announced punitive actions against them. One of them, Putin, terminating the relationship with Honey entirely, resulting in the removal of over 2,000 online stores, including Walmart, Lego, Sephora, Newegg, Uniqlo, and Samsung, to name a few.
PayPal Money was attempting to take Megalag down to legislation lagoon there and just give him the fucking shellac. So they did try and cease and desist him, claiming that what he was publishing was defamatory and that everything they did is all very, very good stuff. Sunshine Rainbows, this guy's a bad actor. This is, a bunch of fish paste and
Brother-in-law.
we have to disregard all of it and it's damaging us.
Taste that reminds me of home.
That we don't like people knowing that Honey is not trustworthy. And after Megalag's previous video covering the inner workings of PayPal Honey and what was going on, getting more information, they did hugely suffer some
Scratch
pretty
upon me.
substantial
Will be
losses
met
there
upon
with
you
the
a
partnership
thousand
that the who was responsible for giving them access
Walking
to their
Dead.
platform,
Rocket discipline.
for example. Now, I've never heard of Rakuten in my life. That sounds like a
Require sustenance.
I don't know what that is, but the way Megalag
Hero
describes
ammo.
it, looking into
Double
it,
the honor.
this was a huge blow to them that likely invests millions of dollars, no doubt. And in response to that, PayPal Honey is now singing a bit of a different tune than the one that's present in the cease and desist.
As a result, PayPal issued a statement
War,
regretting
Ivan. He's just a shot
later,
away.
claiming they had no idea their organization of code responsible for poaching affiliate commissions from content creators, insisting
was for my
they only
master.
discovered the code after exposed it. The same reporting they had just claimed was inventory. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, we should also be included in evidence against them the ongoing federal class action lawsuit
Main power
So
offline.
they desperately
Auxiliary
tried
power
to have thrown
activated.
out.
Hey, Treyarch, can we get a new
Actually,
objective,
the
please?
federal judge handling the case recently denied their motion to dismiss.
Some things get
They
better
don't
with
think
age.
so.
Revive sodas?
Lawsuit
Not
is
one of them.
moving forward.
It really is an action-packed intro to this video. That
Was it
Brett
just
Smith
me, or did you guys hear a voice?
shakes him. A lot has been. I know that in terms of like internet time, the Honey story is ancient history because the coverage was like the original. And then even like the further nitty-gritty dive was 7 months ago, so most people have just completely fucking forgot about it and been neuralized by the Men in Black. That doesn't mean that it just stopped progressing and things. You know, this is like a series.
Chance in hell, break back!
Millions upon millions of dollars, so it's a big deal. Just the speed at which things of this it's glacial. It's never really going to be like, you know, fucking cutthroat, breakneck pace that they go at here. It's dealing with something of this size. But anyway, hey,
Some things get better with age.
We didn't know about this delicious load in there doing this action. Oh, geez. Disgusted if you guys aren't aware about this, and we only learned about it. The same reporting that are calling defamatory by the way. He's ready to point out how nonsensical that is that the cease and desist, they're like,
They're taking me down!
But then probably with their, like, you know, apology and walk very different.
Damn, this wouldn't have happened.
No.
Eat some juice! Nothing left in my guns! Some things get better with age. Revive sodas? Not one of them.
Able to just strong arm their way through the legal system to bury this person. So that's pretty wonderful.
Oh, you don't want to die? Sorry, no returns accepted.
Saying that Megalax is 100% wrong, another accused of making sensationalized clickbait. Yay, honey. And Megalax is that the most important individuals that were doing this behavior, and even an outlet had ties to this industry. So they benefit from Honey being successful. They don't want to see it fail or be exposed to these kind of really shady practices in their business. Because these individuals would also be hurt.
Hey, dude, you want to get me some ammo?
They had significant. Thus, we're looking at ways to like poke holes in Megalax's credibility because themselves are not reliable sources. They are very reliant. So, like the things they were saying were coming from like a genuine place of critique, and it wasn't.
I gotta get some ammo before the bloodshed can continue.
Need to survive. And I thought he did a very good job in defending himself against some of these claims that they were making.
It didn't reveal one thing they couldn't spit. Honey wasn't just stealing commissions, he had intentionally built an entire system around hiding their behavior from the actual system, designed to profile who you were as a user. If you look like a regular shopper, Honey would stand on roles and allow influencer commissions to be diverted into bargains. But if you look like someone from the industry, Honey suddenly played a role to avoid getting caught. They effectively engineered a defeat device, and this revelation, the industry had no choice but to respond appropriately, including the ones Honey's business. And the first act was recruited. They infected Honey with the online stores. Just have its own yes, Revolution Rewards is technically a community extension, and ironically one day
Gutter slugs, die!
separate side of their business. As a network, Putin still earns money every time Honey claimed commission from sale. So trust me, they did not want to lose their partnership, yet they cut them loose anyways.
The defeat device became really the silver bullet for this werewolf here, and that is going to be something that you're going to see a lot throughout this new video from Megalag, because that's the one where there is no spin to put on it from these fucking basically
Online. Auxiliary power deactivated. Rocket approaching test position.
which no doubt had some of the top classes fucking speed. I'm still happy that is a lot of I missed out on much they did put those cards. And Mega Man ties into some really interesting stuff here in regards to recruiting and how that's pseudo-competitor to Honey, which is also a lawsuit of their own on their lap. But even going further, there were some things that
Some internal emails between PayPal producer also, according to the filings, internal emails between PayPal and violent recruiting stand-up policies as early as July 2015, even after the filing of the complaints in this action through at least May 2025.
Mega Lag is making here, going through these documents and these emails, is that Rakuten's not exactly the good guys taking a principled stance. They're not the heroes wearing the cape who, found out about this and were aghast and cut ties because it's, that's...
I can't stand prudes.
They knew about this for years, but still continued to keep them on their network, obviously, because they're making so much money from it. And then they eventually did cut ties as this came out in Discovery. So, it's not necessarily them being principled, as Megalag explained. It's more so
all security personnel.
and the emails show they were chasing PayPal down on the back end as well. Actually, PayPal Honey even just blatantly, boldly, even called it overreach, admitting their rules are still garbage. And yet they still kept them around for so long. So they're not exactly the great guys or anything.
Regardless of motives, this termination was still a disaster for PayPal. They got the entire affiliate world talking, and just a few days later, PayPal quietly deactivated their defeat device and broke their silence. They apologized to the industry, if you can even call it that, via an exclusive statement. The same publication that wrote the What Mega Lag got wrong.
Security level normalized. System defense is offline.
Accusations from industry commentators. Okay, that's hilarious. They won't even cite me by name anymore. When I'm wrong, I'm Mega Lag. When I'm right, I'm just an industry commentator. Classic.
Motive Rakuten cutting ties with Honey did cause huge ripples catastrophic, and that's when they did finally, stop the radio silence. It's that when their apology and on the same publication that was criticized by the last the things he got Julia. And I appreciate this freaking move, man. Mega Lag is this nebulous mystery commentator, the elusive man behind the desk.
Main power offline. Auxiliary power activated.
Without light, darkness rules.
Why would they do that?
Reminds me of home.
Causing this behavior has been identified and no longer has an impact. The code was implemented prior to PayPal's acquisition and appears to affect less than 0.1% of Honey's traffic.
Unsurprisingly, they're trying to put makeup on this, spruce it up a little bit so it doesn't sound as bad as it actually was. That only affected 0.1%. This is I'm talking about the stand down and all of that. The rule breaking and such only affected such a small number. Mega Lag doesn't pull any punches, highlighting and proving just how misleading that claim is, because he does dive into how it previously operated, where it was targeting basically everybody, and then there was a subtle flank change specifically focused on a much smaller portion of the user base. So with their new rules, it's a much lower amount that were affected, but the previous rules, which were there for a long time,
It tastes.
much
It
larger
reminds me
number.
of
So
home.
it's very misleading with PayPal's statement on who all was affected. Then of course, the next section where it's talking about like how surprising merchants learned about this in the first place and that they, deactivated it.
Now, this next statement is really interesting. The spokesperson said that the code was only recently discovered by
Every
PayPal,
scratch
and
upon
upon
me
being made
will be
aware
met
of it,
upon you
the
a
company has
thousandfold.
deactivated. That is patently false. Yes, the defeat device was developed in 2017 under the original Cubs edition. PayPal inherited it
More
in
bullets, damn it!
2020. However, at the time, the defeat
Should have
device
already
was
fallen on your
encrypted,
sword.
scrambled, so that even if someone found it, they couldn't read it. Then, in 2021, under PayPal's ownership, the entire system was rebuilt. The rules were restructured into a completely new format and stored in plain text on PayPal servers. That's not a minor tweak, that's a fundamental redesign. PayPal's developers had to build that from the ground up. You can't rebuild the system, continue adjusting its rules year after year, then claim you had no idea it existed. PayPal claiming ignorance here is fucking wild. The way I see it, it's just a straight up lie.
That is definitely the way it smells here, like a stinky fit. And I think he's done a great job of explaining why it seems that way. Them trying to claim ignorance on this, I think has been paying attention at all and has followed this story should see how outrageous that concept is, that they just had no idea about the existence of this stuff. I think that's very provably incorrect. At least I would think so. I think the evidence is overwhelmingly against that claim, and the fact that they're even trying that is just insulting to human intelligence. And speaking of insulting to human intelligence, the next section he puts a little bit of time into just fucking walloping on that publication that made the article what Megalag got wrong while like sucking the cock here of Honey and doing their best. You will find some really strong connections between that publication, Hello Partner, and Honey. Honey happens to be one of their premier sponsors on their conferences. So it seemed like there was an incentive to be nice to Honey since they are together, they're in bed together, and Megalag even showed that reached out to them saying they are all of it, but very clearly that's Honey. Megalag even provided like an exclusive statement to Hello Partner that journalist never got included. So very fishy behavior from them, and I appreciated that he put a little highlight on there. You can take a peek at how some of these journalists
it's not over.
The next network to take action was AWIN, and this one mattered the most because AWIN is by far PayPal's biggest affiliate network partner, giving Honey access to over 60,000 merchants. The response came straight from their CEO, Adam Ross, the same guy who initially brushed off my entire investigation as
Rocket approaching destination.
The allegations raised publicly, we opened a full internal investigation into the activity in question.
Did you? Is that what happened? Are you sure? Because your CEO was busy trying to tar and feather Megalag for daring talk about Honey negatively and providing this evidence for their shady practices that were really bad. So their CEO, the initial response from him was sensationalist clickbait.
Navigation systems. Awaiting security
Good on the people. Yes, is at hand.
And it's kind of cringe. Nothing there, nothing murder. They're on the ceiling.
That is all you have?
The evidence was a little compelling. They did their investigation at some point where they confirmed breaches.
Touch not, lest ye be destroyed!
So it was like an actual feat.
That is called a reversal of
The CEO was really vocal about how controversy so for that, God, besmirching the community, something like funny. Anyway, though, I recommend checking out the full video for Megalag because that does like a really thorough breakdown on just how hard PayPal Honey has been hit in light of all of this that's been revealed about it. Not only in like the loss of users or like the loss of some of these partners, but they have just been kind of catching L's because now for
I will unleash this
and that's been taking its today. Not just on the users, which they've lost a huge chunk of users, but they've lost in many other avenues as well, which covers, which I think is really interesting and highly recommend you check out. And I do want to talk briefly on the lawsuits that are ongoing. Everyone knows about it. Lawsuit because so many
my name.
business practices here. So a lot of class actions consolidated into a giant class action lawsuit that's ongoing. And additionally, there were 2 other class actions filed on behalf of consumers in the U.S. and one on behalf of consumers in the U.K. over how misleading all of this shit was from PayPal Honey. The U.S.
A taste that reminds me of home.
And then Megalag goes into detail on where the class action is on behalf of creators.
And a few weeks later, she issued a formal decision.
Do me a great kindness,
claims
brother-in-law.
Again, this means that while PayPal got a temporary win on paper, the lawyers representing the content creators were allowed to come back, fix the issues the judge highlighted, and file an amended complaint. Regardless, it didn't take long for the usual suspects to take a premature victory lap. PayPal's lawyers, Hello Partner, and head of Holmes Ryan Hudson, who tweeted, case dismissed, despite not owning the company anymore. But little did they know, I had an ace up my sleeve. That, of course, being the discovery of Honey's feed device. And I was fairly confident that, once exposed, it would help the case. After that video
Things did take a turn, not for the best for old Ryan over there. On June 4th,
Main power offline. Auxiliary
and
power
when she invited
activated.
PayPal's lead attorney to make his arguments, Richard Jacobson, the same lawyer who sent me the cease and desist, she joked that he had an uphill battle
taste
ahead
that
of him
reminds me of
and might
home.
not be winning the motion to dismiss. A brutal thing to hear before you've even opened your mouth.
the way Megalag describes this makes it sound straight out of like a fucking television show. So they got kicked around for the first time, came back with improved complaints, and the inclusion now of Megalag's research and discovery, everything there. It is now in the complaint. It is now very, very strong against PayPal Honey. And now the judge is singing a very different tune here. Now,
Bro, I just fucking knew it.
Now, it's like, that's like some poetic shit.
And it only went downhill from there. Throughout the hearing, Judge Freeman constantly pushed back on PayPal's arguments, challenging them
reminds me of home.
To give you an example, at one point, PayPal tried arguing that affiliate IDs don't hold any real intrinsic value because they're just short strings of numbers and letters. The judge responded with something along the lines of, well, you can say the same thing about a dollar bill. Which Richard replied, quote, I don't know how to respond to that. And in my view, that kind of sums up PayPal's whole defense.
I love that, man. Like, going on record, like, it's just letters and numbers. You fucking idiot. Everything is letters and numbers. And why the judge didn't just let that kind of gobbledygook fly in the courtroom? Like, her counterpoint very strong. And there's like a million others that you could have easily served back to him that would have also just blue screened his brain, stun locking him, hitting him with the argument he tried to make like Neanderthal brain type shit. Of course the ID matters. What are you trying to say? Like, they're making a mockery of it. They're trying to make some kind of dumb fucking argument like that. I am so happy to hear that the judge was pushing back so hard like that.
My honor.
Because that's crazy for them to even try.
On June 22nd, Judge Freeman
reminds
issued
me
a
of
final
home.
ruling, and every single claim survived. And then they said the content creators had a massive. So, what happens now? Well, now that the case is survived, there's no reason for the lawyers to delay the discovery process. That means PayPal handing over documents and terms and conditions, and their employees possibly facing depositions under oath. And given that the defeat device fell prior to PayPal's acquisition of money,
That
it's
is called
highly
a
possible that the
reversal of
original
fortune.
founders might have some blood to drag into this process as well. And honestly, well, I think we
You
should.
think I would
Among
miss?
the started while the company was under new leadership, and I think we need to be held accountable in some way. It's also worth noting that since the defeat device was exposed, Ryan, who was previously very vocal in trying to defend his former company, has now gone completely silent. Pretty telling.
Take that! You soulless
It's not
creature!
telling it all. Don't read too much into that. Ryan's just been busy. He's a social guy. He's been, fucking snorting coke and having threesomes all the time. Something
Long-range solution
He's
to a nearby
dude.
problem.
Like, yeah, he was like super vocal pushing back against you until the defeat device, and now it's really looking pretty bad for PayPal Honey, but like, dude, like Ryan, he doesn't even own the company anymore. He doesn't even really care. But yeah, I imagine he's not super happy with how this is proceeding now. He's no longer, pinky out, going crazy, pumping his fist. He's just maybe he's sweating a little bit, perhaps. Who's really to say?
Should have already fallen on your sword.
This is tremendous. All of the complaints are going forward. So the case is
Walking dead. Lack of discipline.
that does lead to accountability here, because this is a very big deal with what
Touch
PayPal
not,
Honey.
lest ye be
There
destroyed.
is a huge problem with it that has been highlighted, and now it's looking like there might be some serious repercussions. They've already faced some very big blowback, losing a lot of its user base as well as a lot of its partners.
Take that!
Like, it's
You
still doing business. They're not foot or anything, it's not curtains, but I think it probably should be. That's not a trustworthy business at all. This is some scummy shit based on all the available evidence out there, and it's some real strong evidence. So I would like to see this proceed where they are dragged into court under oath and have to talk about the defeat device and everything like that. Megalag speculates that it'll likely end in a settlement. I tend to agree that that's probably going to be what happens here, but I'd love to be surprised and actually have to talk
Auxiliary
about
power
everything
deactivated.
under
Rocket
oath and
approaching
go into
destination.
detail on all of this really good stuff here, these fucking barnacles that PayPal money. But I guess we'll see how it all shakes out.
From the very first day that Honey deployed the defeat device, they added code that documented every decision they made. So each time the system decided to violate standout rules, that decision was logged. Every time it decided to play safe,
No ammo,
that
no
too
weapons.
was logged, along with
Now the
each
real
rule
fight
triggered
begins.
decision. But more importantly,
Initiating
they
lunar
also
navigation
logged the
system.
original
Awaiting
affiliate
security
link
protocol
which often contains the original
13255.
affiliate's ID, and in some cases, even the affiliate's name. Now, assuming PayPal has retained this data, and I think there's a very good chance they have, it means that somewhere on PayPal's servers lies a
beneath
detailed
a safe.
record of every single instance in which this defeat device enabled the theft of someone else's sale. And I'm fairly certain the lawyers will be demanding access to that data if they haven't already.
That's a pretty big deal, just to have a full ledger kept of every instance of theft and where it happened and who to. That's huge if they're
Bring me
able
more!
to get that information through discovery.
my name! Akio!
Existing partners still wanting to demand that data themselves outside of the courts, which I imagine they will not provide if I had to wager again. But yeah, that would be massive, because then they could get the exact amount. It's all of it just right there. But I
Face
think,
down the
anyway, I
you
found
die
this to
like
be
the rest. Akio is all that is man.
case against Honey. Please go show support to Megalag for the work he's done on this case. It has been extraordinary, even in light of him facing his own legal hamburgers
Empty
being
I am.
served up from PayPal for his coverage of this. He continues to fight against them, which I think is just fantastic, and the exact kind of journalism this world needs a lot more. Someone that's willing to fight tooth and nail against some absolute fucking trash like this.
Honor my weapon.
So, big hands off to Megalag. Hopefully, the
You will take my honor!
favorable, and yeah, that's really about it. Yeah.
That's how we shake hands where I come from. night of karaoke. Passing throat. Glory! Taste my steel. I may be out, but it's not over.
Warning, re-entry detected. All security personnel on high alert.
This better be something good for once. I may be out, but it's not over. Oh, eating days are over! Destroyed by the weapon of the pure. The strength of my ancestors powers me.
Security level normalized. System defenses offline. Main power offline. Auxiliary power activated.
Without honor, corridors. Without light, darkness rules.
Please, help me. She's coping. The mechanism must be repaired.
Best comedians
Who are
don't
you?
tell jokes. They tell the truth in a way that makes you laugh instead of cry. George Carlin saw America for what it truly was. A
A taste
carefully
that
crafted
reminds me
lie.
of home.
A lie so powerful and complex, he dedicated much of his act to trying to pull the wool from his fans' eyes.
It's a big club. You made it.
Remember my name, Hagio!
Big club. Table is big, folks. Table big.
Despite George spending the better half of his career trying to the powers that be, nothing changed. Some argue it may have gotten worse. Today, many people believe that stand-up comedy is being overly controlled by political correctness, whereas others think that artists and
that
performers
reminds me of home.
change their political opinions and just stick to their craft. But everyone wanted to hear what George Carlin had to say regarding religion, race, war, prisons, the death penalty, climate change, human rights, abortion, sex work, feminism, toxic masculinity, PTSD, voter integrity, censorship, capitalism, communism, imperialism. The subject
Walking
matters.
Dead,
George Carlin's
lack of discipline.
Now today you have people on both sides of the political spectrum analyzing his whole system that they know is hard and plain enough to say.
Pero yo decía, no sabía que farmear donde
There's one leader I don't
Cursed creatures!
politician.
era todo un gol.
Everybody complains about it. Like I said, they suck. They come from American parents and American families. This is the best we can do, folks. Maybe it's not the politicians who suck. Maybe something else sucks.
Thank you.
Right.
This
A
video
taste
is
that reminds me of home.
poster. This one you think George Carlin is speaking for you, and you'll say something that you entirely disagree with.
On the people.
Does provide a solid solution for all of this chaos. That is, you won't like it. So let's dive into some of the most iconic materials, starting off with something a little more lighthearted. Stuff. Have you noticed that they are stuffing that your is stuff?
That is called a reversal of
And while this may seem menial on the surface, our accumulation of natural force that will drastically change the modern civilization.
Life for some people often revolves around managing all this stuff and like everybody's got another place for this. That's all life is about. That's the value of life. That's all your house is. It's absolutely goddamn stuff. You don't need a house. That's all your house is. It's a place to keep your stuff. Obviously, our homes provide us with shelter from storms and pollution. They help maintain a livable, consistent climate and provide a place for family and friends to gather. With homes that into a glorified storage. Not to mention the storage unit industry generating $23 million in revenue, which in and of itself is proof on how much we complicate our lives just by trying to manage all of our belongings. Sometimes you go on vacation, you gotta bring something. Can't take all. You gotta take a small...
Take that! You soulless creature!
Obviously, you should not let material things control your life. And when you are more selective,
every scratch upon me will be met upon you 1,000.
but you will appreciate those things even more.
Walking Dead, lack of discipline.
I, for one, appreciate expensive camera equipment, various options of speakers, and of course, quality headphones. Black Friday is coming up, and we all love getting a great deal. With the sponsor of today's video, Raycon, censorship has been a particularly large talking point over the past few years, and
I gotta put something on while I play.
Take on the subject over 50 years
I'm
ago.
not playing with you while I'm not listening to you play.
In his most famous
I'm not listening with you while you play.
7 words you can't say on television.
I mean, there are a lot of words you can say whenever you want, you know? Yeah, nobody can say about it.
Main power online. Auxiliary power deactivated. Rocket approaching test position.
But there are some words that you put in your phone. Some words that we just have decided to say all the time.
Then expresses that he wishes there was a universally agreed upon list of the words that are prohibited.
This makes my eyes water.
Initiating Luna navigation systems. Awaiting security protocol 13255.
That's enough trial there.
It starts out more facetious, he then gets a little more serious when discussing the hypocrisy of our culture, specifically on television, where sometimes we're allowed to say certain words, and then sometimes those same words are also
there are a lot of these little two-way words. I call them like part-time too. You have words like abs.
Our disease. Takeo! It's a cure!
That's another one of those places where you can't
Every scratch upon me will be met upon you 1,000. What's my name? Meet beneath a scythe. Red sun prevail. Insufferable, intolerable, insanity. Bow down.
The ironic thing is, I still can't say these words on YouTube today, nor can I just let a clip of George Carlin say them. The reason why I can't say them today and why George couldn't say them then is slightly different. The reason why George couldn't say the words was because he had to abide by the laws of the Communications Commission, or FCC. The FCC regulates interstate and international communications by radio, television, wire, satellite, and cable. The FCC defines and prohibits obscene, indecent, which they say is not protected by the FCC.
That is all you have?
Content includes grossly offensive language that is considered
all you want.
rules is
You
what
will
inspired
not
the
stop.
debate in the first place. Also, in July 1972, George Carlin was on stage at some protesting along Wisconsin. George was warned prior to the stage that if he performed his 7 words on stage, arrested, and in true George Carlin he walked off stage and police lieutenant was waiting to arrest him. Unfortunately, after his arrest, the
Main
charges were
power
dropped as he was
offline.
protected by
Auxiliary
his
power
first
activated.
constitutional
Darkness
right.
is the domain of the dead. We must give this place life. Please, help me.
And so I use them in explaining that. They know that. And it's my kind of to be for using them. And my intention is to free us absolutely people for using them.
George's material would actually be the center of some litigation that got all the way up to the Supreme Court. In October of 1973, George would release his fifth album titled Occupation Fool. On that album was another very similar joke titled Filthy Words. Since George was a renowned comedian, comedy radio jockeys were excited to play his new material for their listeners. Well, on October 30th, 1973, East Coast station WBAI-FM warned their listeners that they were about to play Carlin's material that was potentially offensive. CBS executive John Douglas listened to the broadcast alongside his 15-year-old son as they drove home. Appalled, he filed a complaint with the FCC a few weeks later over the language aired in the middle of the day. In February 1975, the FCC issued a regulatory order that determined the broadcast to be indecent and threatened to impose sanctions on the Pacifica Foundation, who owned the radio station, and subsequent complaints. Pacifica challenged this finding in court, and in 1977, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit ruled in favor of the broadcast entity, sending the case all the way up to the Supreme Court. Surprise, surprise, the feds will the FCC has almost no impact today. Nearly everyone in America consumes their media almost entirely on the internet, whether through social media content or subscription-based services like Netflix that are not bound by the regulations of the FCC. And while it is good that the government is not necessarily controlling our speech or interrupting our content, platforms like YouTube, which are more popular than TV, arguably restrict us from My personal YouTube partner manager once said to me in an email, "We have different and oftentimes more strict policies and standards than TV." The reason why I can't say George Carlin's 7 words is because YouTube will age restrict their content, meaning that users over the age of 18 are forced to sign in to be able to watch. So instead of clicking the sign in, a lot of them just choose to skip the video. Now on the surface, this seems like a practical solution.
Walking Dead,
I could agree
Rocket
with, but
disappeared.
there are some flaws. They've already been better at this. YouTube historically did not consider the context in which your language is said. So if I'm just repeating the appropriate words that someone else said to give you the most accurate information, I'm just saying them objectively from a documentary perspective or educational perspective, like I was with Carlin. That's not considered different than me just throwing around a bunch of swear words and speaking like a sailor. Because like Carlin said, context is everything.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with any of those words in themselves. It's the context.
War, demon! It's just a shot away!
It's the intention behind the words that makes them good or bad. The words are completely neutral. I'm getting tired of people talking about bad words and bad language and loose. It's the context that makes them.
But perhaps the most frustrating part about words you cannot say is that it's always changing.
Be afraid of words that speak the truth. Americans have trouble facing the truth, so they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation.
Today you can find an abundance of information about words that are now considered offensive or one trend that you'll notice is that words that are deemed as inappropriate tend to get replaced with words that are less specific and more open for interpretation. Here are some examples. Instead of wheelchair bound, you should say wheelchair user. Instead of homeless, say people experiencing homelessness. Instead of master bedroom, because of its ties to slavery, say primary bedroom. Now, clearly defined and specific language is faster and more efficient to use, but it can often be less generally accurate. Like if you refer to just anyone in a wheelchair as crippled, that might be accurate for someone with muscular dystrophy, but not necessarily accurate for someone who just broke both of their legs and are in the process of healing. Saying disabled instead of crippled is more open, and it's also not as permanent. Someone could be forever disabled, or they could be disabled just right now. Most people can get behind this logic. It becomes nearly impossible to keep up with the droves of new words that are now considered offensive or outdated. Here are some words and phrases that some people believe are outdated and offensive. Brainstorm, because it was originally used to describe what people perceived as violent maniacal outbursts, a sudden and severe attack of mental illness, epileptic seizures, and more. Grandfathered in, the term originates with the practice of allowing voters in southern states easier voting conditions if they had a grandfather before 1867. It was a trick, because at the time, black voters' grandfathers were slaves and could not vote. Long time no see is a phrase that Native Americans would say to early settlers in broken English. No can do is a similar phrase that is said to derive from Chinese broken English. So if you say these phrases today, it can be interpreted as mockery, but it can also be interpreted as efficient. Why say more words when keywords are trick? Some of you are genuinely baffled at this and think it's ridiculous. Some people are like, that's interesting, and I will refrain from using those words and phrases. And the divide between you is because of what Carlin said in 1972. Everyone's list is different.
You never know what's going to be on the list. People's lists being changed from day to day. Some people on Friday night about 2 or 3 words. Sunday morning, and they're 27.
Remember my name, Hakio!
And even if you think you're doing the right thing, you're saying the right words today, one day they'll probably turn around and become offensive. This is known as the euphemism. For example, neurodivergent is a present-day umbrella term that is acceptable to categorize ADHD, learning disabilities, and anxiety disorders. It's less specific, and people seem to prefer that. But now kids have turned that word into an insult by calling those types of people neuros. So give it some time, and the word neurodivergent will be considered offensive because the people who call them neuros will. So with all that being said, what's the solution? Where does the line get drawn? There is no solution. Which is why George Carlin implemented his euphemisms bit like this.
I'm telling you, some of this language makes me want to vomit. Well, maybe not vomit. Makes me want to engage in an involuntary personal protein spill.
George's material is, in the truest definition of the word, timeless. I find it incredible how this joke in 1990 is more accurate today than it was then.
Everywhere you go now, there's some recorder, and he is going to take
Security level normalized. System defenses.
Strange notions that does experience. The Lord was saved on the shelf. Are people's lives so bankrupt they stood at home and
Sure, George could have predicted it getting this bad, but today we spend probably 90% of our time watching things we already did, living our lives in this perpetual state of planning things so we can document them to look back on. And although Carlin's material feels like he is speaking your exact frustrations, sometimes people feel like he takes things too far, especially in regards to his views on children.
Children. It's all you hear in this country. Children. Help the children. The children. Save the children. You know what I say?
That is all you have?
The children. Your children are overrated and overvalued. You've turned them into little cult objects. You have a child fetish, and it's not healthy.
More! Bring me more!
Everybody loves their children. Doesn't make you special. What I'm talking about is this constant, mindless yammering in the media, this neurotic fixation that somehow everything has to be wrong. Children, it's completely out of balance. First of all, they're not all cute, okay? When you look at them close, some of them are rather unpleasant looking. Don't smell too good either. Ones in particular seem to have a kind of urine and sour milk combinations. Second premise, not all children are smart and clever. Got that? Kids are like any other group of people. Humans are losers. millions of kids out there who
This is a
can't say
George does go on to describe the overprotection of children, which has, without a doubt, gone in modern parenting. However, he does take this to extremes, suggesting that we just let kids do whatever they want with a survival of the fittest type justification.
You gotta stop overprotecting them because you're making them too soft. Medicine powers and curfew, pajamas, child restraints, and car seats, and helmets, bicycles, skateboarding, baseball. It's not for everything from jerking off. These soft, fruity, amazing an entire generation of soft, fruity kids who aren't even allowed to have hazardous toys, for Christ's sake. Hazardous toys. Shit, what happened to natural selection? Survival of the fittest. Makes it out its best. We're saving entire truly lives in this country of all ages. Nature should be allowed to do its job of killing off the weak and sickly and injured people without interference from airbags and padding and helmets.
George can definitely go from insightful philosopher to imperial influence everything pretty quickly. Although what he is saying is probably objectively true, if we have the resources to make the lives of our people safer, why wouldn't we do that? Considering George has a daughter of his own, I'm sure he didn't just throw her to the and hope for the best.
And it was a conversation my dad and I had never had. We didn't have any real complete conversation closure around it. But I look back on it now, I think sending him that script was my way of saying, this was one of the themes I wanted to work on in the book, was that here's this man who is that truth teller, like you said opening in the show. I mean, this is the man who conquered everything. He's fearless and will talk about all the big stuff that our culture does not want to talk about. Our security personnel on to our family, we were.
What is coming now?
Very much the textbook dysfunctional alcoholic family that did a lot of walking on eggshells, didn't do a lot of intimate talking about the issues, and we all pretended that we were fine.
However, George wasn't entirely against the idea of doing right by our children. In his opinion, one thing all parents should teach their kids how to do is detect bullshit.
Parents are authority figures themselves, and they don't undermine their own book inside the household. That's the biggest thing you can do for a kid. Tell them what life in this country is about. It's about a whole lot of stuff that needs to be detected and avoided.
There's definitely George's core philosophies that Americans need to constantly assess how they are being lied to.
America's most profitable business is still the manufacturing, packaging, distribution, and marketing of bullshit. And the sad part is that most people seem to have been indoctrinated to believe that bullshit only comes from certain places. It's everywhere.
The strength of my ancestors powers me.
Law enforcement people are foolish, and always have been. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the Dark Mangled Matter, it's still
Security level normalized. System defenses offline.
was founded but slaves told us all men are created equal. All men, except for Indians and women, right?
There will never be enough of you to take my honor!
White male men, slave owners.
I weep beneath the sight!
Feels like
What once was is no longer. More! Bring me more! Oh, hot than a night of karaoke! Drive, intelligence, humility, chaos!
Save the planet. Take care of ourselves yet. We're going to save the planet.
George opens with the basic fact that over 99.9% of every species that have ever lived are now extinct, which is incredible because there are still anywhere from 2 million to 3 trillion species alive today. Pretty narrow gap there. George brings this up because it's entirely natural for a species to go extinct, and he claims it's nothing but human ego to feel the need to control features, such as us passing laws like the Endangered Species Act that prevented extinction in African elephants, black-footed ferrets, bald eagles, American alligators, and dozens more. Now, George's argument is fact-based, but again, what is the harm in trying to protect endangered species? If we have the time, resources, and support to help the survival of another living being, why wouldn't we? Plus, humans were often the direct cause of the eradication of another species. However, it seems that George is not necessarily demonizing these people, but rather the people who maintain this holier-than-thou attitude for their conservation efforts. Like the Yale School of Economics saying the truth is we can survive without wild species, but they can't survive without us.
The fact is, self-righteous and relentless, white, wild liberals who think anything visible madness. Environmentalists don't give a shit about the planet. They don't care about the planet. Not in the abstract, they don't. You know what they're interested in? A clean place to live. Their own habitat. They're worried that someday in the future they might be personally inconvenienced. Narrow, unenlightened self-interest. There is nothing wrong with the planet. Nothing wrong with the planet. The planet is fine.
George goes on to describe how the planet has been through far more disaster than humans could ever cause.
The planet has been through a lot worse than us. Hundreds of thousands of years of bombardment by comets, asteroids, and meteors, worldwide floods, tidal waves, worldwide fires, erosion, cosmic rays, recurring ice ages, and we think plastic bags.
Great, dead pigs!
Make a difference? The planet isn't going anywhere.
Walking dead. Crack and disappearing.
You folks.
Bye-bye, zombie.
Argument against climate change or any sort of environmentalist legislation is that the planet will be fine and that we are banned
Cause a creature.
luxuries because some people believe that the impacts are hurting the planet. And in reality, yes, the planet will be fine. But humans have the ability to accelerate the extinction of humanity through their negligent treatment of the environment. However, the situation gets a little more complicated when learning that since 1988, just 100 companies have been responsible for 71% of greenhouse gas emissions, or that one plane flight will emit more CO2 than the average person will in an entire year. But the majority of the blame gets put on individuals. You are constantly being shamed and pressured to reduce your carbon footprint, or massive rallies all over the world protesting and marching for a safer environment. This led to incremental action like the ban on single-use plastic bags, which is no big deal and objectively better for the wildlife that are polluted by plastics. But it has led to bigger restrictions like the European Parliament's plans to ban combustion cars by 2035 and going all electric. Yet the dust that comes off brake pads is just as harmful, if not more, than diesel emissions. And in 2021, 52% of all particle emissions came from tires and brakes. But we need brakes on all cars, even the electric ones. So while we are eliminating some problems, we are not even addressing the most important and harmful ones. Plus, producing a lithium battery for an electric car emits over 70% more carbon dioxide than producing a conventional car. The mining process uses a lot of water, approximately 500,000 per ton of lithium, destroying farmland and local environments. A lithium battery expert from the University of Chile says, like any mining process, it is invasive. It scars the landscape, it destroys the water table, and it pollutes the earth and the local wells. This isn't a green solution. It's not a solution at all. No solution will be perfect. And all will inevitably lead to more problems and draining on the Earth's natural resources. But there is no doubt at all that massive corporations are polluting the Earth far more than the 8 billion individuals. And while some conservationists or environmentalists act like they are doing their noble deed for the good of the planet, this act to be more green, the reality is that they are doing it to protect human civilization. Maybe it's all about money and power and protecting the interests of massive corporations. Right, the planet will be fine. Humans will face the ramifications of our actions. said, inside every cynical person, there's a disappointed idealist. And that idealist will come out from time to time. Like, for instance, Carlin is very anti-capital